Hi folks, and welcome to another episode of Careers and Coffee. So today I'm absolutely delighted to be welcoming Max Harvey. So Max is the work placement officer over at West Suffolk College, and he's going to come on today to talk to us a little bit more about T-Levels. So let's welcome him on. Max, how you doing?
Hi Jordan, yeah, not bad mate, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. And like we were saying, what's happening with this weather lately? I can't be dealing with it.
Honestly, I distinctly remember this time last year having breakfast in the garden, that kind of thing. But you couldn't even dream of that now. It's not good, mate. Not good.
I know, but at least we can have breakfast in a pub somewhere. That's one of the perks.
Being quintessentially British, it is part of our culture, of course, isn't it? So
exactly. But because we've known each other for a few years because you'd done the Education Business Partnership qualification.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
A few years ago, and now you're at West Suffolk College doing lots of fantastic stuff. But before we get into that, have you got coffee or a warm beverage?
I think you like this, Jordan, but look at that.
I like the mug.
Yeah, got the coffee at the ready.
Tell me a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
So, yeah, as you rightly said, I'm a work placement officer, one of the many work placement officers we have at the college. All of us look after different areas. So for me, it's engineering, computing, and automotive. And we have all dedicated members of our team to sort of fit into the different areas. So I've been doing this role now for best part of 2 years. But in total, I've actually been at West Suffolk College now for 5 years. So really have got a taste of a lot of different departments, which is, from my perspective, has been really nice. I started off as an apprentice within our student welfare department. And since then have gone from marketing, did sort of about a couple, 6 to 8 months there, worked within the apprenticeship team, and then started a secondment as a work placement officer. Like I said, no less than sort of 2 years ago. And ever since then, it's really taken off. As we'll discuss today with the introduction of T-Levels, it just makes our job so much more that important for the college, with the mandatory industry placements, which we will discuss today, that as well. So, really, really good future for all of us work placement officers at the moment.
Brilliant. And you talked there about being at West Suffolk College, but you also used to be a student at West Suffolk College.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
What's it like, I suppose, now having, some of your teachers and folks you knew when you were at college, now as colleagues? What was that transition like?
It's nice. It is really nice, I've got to say. Sort of, I always had a good relationship with the tutors that I had at the college. So being able to continue that relationship into beyond that and into colleagues and stuff. So sort of like we have summer barbecues as a whole college. So being able to have that relationship with them there has been really good. And one of my former lecturers is actually my lecturer on the level 3 teacher training qualification that I'm doing at the moment. So that's kind of a bit of myself and Jason sort of laugh a little bit as a bit of a throwback to when I was a student at the college a couple of years back. But it is really good. Really good members of staff that we've got at the college. So I'm happy to be one of them.
So is that another progression for you then, to go off and become a teacher?
Yeah. So the level 3 qualification, 12 weeks, at the start of which we had to do over Teams, because obviously COVID wasn't allowing it. But the last couple of weeks, we've been able to come into college to do some of those days. So being able to meet all the fellow future teachers and stuff has been really good. When I left school originally, sort of in a position of not really knowing what direction to go, and ended up falling into education. And it really has become sort of a bit of a passion, seeing sort of students progress from someone that wasn't necessarily ready for work into someone who is either going to gain an apprenticeship or a full-time job at the end of it. It's really rewarding. So really, really good stuff at the moment.
That's brilliant. I was going to come on and ask you, I feel like sometimes as young people, you leave education, you think, okay, that's me done. Whatever level, whether that be
definitely
form or you've got your degree, master, PhD, etc. How important is it to continue learning throughout? And lifelong learning is a phrase we all hear about, and obviously you're doing it. How important is it for you, and that we encourage more people to
I
continue
mean,
doing that?
you probably feel the same, John, but I learn something new almost every day in education. You know, students now, we're so lucky that in the Suffolk area we have so much talent around. Students are so skilled and talented in what they do. And half the time they're teaching me stuff. You know, I'm not overly competent in sort of engineering, computing, or automotive specifically, but obviously know about the industries themselves in regards to sort of recruitment. But as in regards to the actual jobs, I'm not overly competent. So they're teaching me a lot as well. I feel like you're never too old to learn something new as well. Just a lot of different skills that you can always learn. I mean, teacher training is a prime example of that for me. It just goes to show that I can put everything that I've learned over these 5 years at the college into a classroom. And yeah, just sort of developing your social skills and soft skills, as well as your own technical skills in an industry that we all have passions for. Yeah, just cannot stress enough how continued education is vital for our community. Really is.
Brilliant. And what are some of the key skills that you tend to use day to day at work?
First off, if anyone's thinking about becoming a workplace officer, the main thing that I would say is organisation. We look after a lot of different students individually, and being able to stay organised and understand, like, right, this person is going to go here, this person wants to go here, keeping that organised so you don't let students start their placement, for example, without sort of health and safety in place. So we do health and safety checks for all employers that are taking on students, so that we can ensure that said student is safe within that place, within that workplace. So that kind of thing as well. Having good industry knowledge and sort of good knowledge of where the current market, labour market information is as well, where potential areas are lacking in sort of skills, like new skills of students, like entry-level skills. If any industries are sort of wanting more entry-level members of staff in their team, it's knowing that, right, if I place this person there, they've taken apprentices before, they know a lot about working alongside the college as well. So having that sort of labour market information is vital, definitely. And as well as that, obviously, you need to be a people person. Need to enjoy having conversations with people. I speak to new people every day. It's one of my favourite parts of the job. So it really just goes to show just how much people will remember as well. Like if you remember something personal about a member of staff that you're dealing with in the company, that's going to build their trust a lot quicker. So yeah, that all those things and a lot more.
That's brilliant. Thank you. And we've just got a question in. So, have you always been an organised person, or have you learned this skill?
I would say actually in this job is really, I've learned it mostly in this job. I always try and be, in any job that I've done, I've always tried to be organised, and I've always managed. But after the first couple of months in this job, I realised that I needed to sort of up that almost and double down on sort of organisation. And for example, having spreadsheets open for different student groups, or having folders all sorted through different groups as well. So there's a lot of balancing. We always say in our department that we're sort of balancing a lot of different plates, or spinning a lot of different plates at one time. So being able to know that you're organised and everything's sort of up to date as well is a nice feeling. But yeah, I definitely think since this job has really expanded that no end. So yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Max. And now let's talk a little bit more about T-Levels. I mean,
Sure.
I feel like they've been going on forever. Sometimes we're no clear on what they are. Hopefully, the next 10 minutes you can educate us all.
I hope so. I really hope so. So in their entirety, a T-level is going to be equivalent to 3 A-levels. So it is sort of a vocational qualification that students are going to take over, with obviously a focus on these vocational and technical skills that students will be learning in the workplace. And with that being said, it's 80% classroom based, and then there is actually 20% as well based in work. And that 20% would be the industry or industrial placement that takes that as a mandatory part of T-Levels. At West Suffolk College, we're starting our first 3 this September in digital, childcare and science. So yeah, obviously we're at this stage now. We are looking for more employers to get on board to help, potentially grow their future talent, employers of the future, that kind of thing. So yeah, in its time in their entirety, their equivalent, 1 T-level is equivalent to 3 A-levels, but obviously you've got that additional industry placement completed as well once you complete it after the 2 years.
So T-levels, 2-year qualification, the industry placement.
That's right.
And you talk about 28%. How many days, how many hours does that placement have to be?
So the industry placement works out to 45 days. And when I tell employers that, they sometimes look at me like, oh, I don't know if I can manage the student for 45 days. But it does equal 315 hours, and it can be split over the 2 years. So that normally calms them down a bit and just think, oh, okay, that's a lot more manageable. And how it's actually split, students will be in college 3 days a week, and then they have 2 study days. And for T-levels, these 2 study days are really there for the industry placement. Some students, because we are also trialing industry placements with our current full-time BTEC students. So that will be all the courses that we offer, all the full-time level 3 courses and level 2 courses that we offer. We do offer industry placements to these, just so we as a college and the employers in our area as well can get used to this sort of action and this kind of development within education.
Brilliant. And the industry placements, does that have to be with, so for those 45 days, do I have to do it with one employer? Could I do it with a few different ones? Do I have to do it in one block? How does that work?
You can do it with a maximum of 2 employers. So like you rightly said, if you're doing your first hours with one employer, and unfortunately for whatever reason they can't offer you any substantial amount of hours to meet the requirement, then you can look at a different employer as well. Obviously staying in the same industry that you would, and ideally in the same area to make it easier for the student as well. But yeah, up to 2 employers, and we can help find employers. That is often the question that I get from students on our current full-time BTEC courses, is that I don't know where to start looking. Obviously, students may not have that labour market information that I have. So I do try my best to sort of help them out in that sense. But we do ask students to look for their own benefit first. So if they get used to speaking to employers, like whether over the phone or email, that kind of thing. So yeah, we try and help where we can, but ideally students will look for themselves for the employers, and then we're sort of a backup to help them if they get stuck.
Brilliant. I'll come to the question below in a second, but in terms of so those 45 days, could I do sort of 10 days in one term, 10 days in another one, or does it have to be you start and 45 days done? Yeah,
nail on the head there, mate. So whatever suits the employer, really. So if they would prefer to do the employer and the student, I should say, so whatever suits them. So if they want to do bulk weeks, obviously we've got half term next week. Half terms are normally a time where obviously students won't be at college, so they can bulk their hours up quite quickly there. I've got 3 industry placements at the moment with Jeb Technologies in Bury. So one of those students is a second year, and 2 of those students are first years. So one of them does 2 days a week, and then the other 2 do 1 day a week. So they can change that as to best suit the student. And best suits of employers, because obviously ideally with an industry placement they're going to have a member of staff who's sort of their supervisor, who's going to help them through the placement, through all the technical skills that they develop during their time on placement. So yeah, whatever suits the employer, we can make sure that is what we roll out for the student and the employer.
Like that's music to a lot of employers. That's great. Thank you.
So. I really do hope so. Yeah, that would be nice.
And next question. So what is the benefit of doing a T-level over a normal college course, or taking 3 to 4 A-levels, in fact?
Yeah. So with this, everything that I've said really about industry placements, what you're going to get from a T-level as you wouldn't from an A-level is that industry experience into the area that you're interested in. 99% of the employers that I speak to will say if a student's got the right attitude, then we're happy to take them on. So obviously, with that being said, if students do have the attitude and are ready for work, in which a T-level student would be, T-level students will be aware that the industry placement is an integral and compulsory part of the course. So they're going to be aware and ready to get into the place of work. So that would be the main focus in regards to the benefit for that, is getting that industry knowledge, getting your foot into the door, into your chosen industry, whatever passion you have, industrially speaking, and then hopefully just grow onto progression routes that you would like to go into the future, whether that's with your current employer or with an employer in the same industry. It's really getting that foot through the door and experiencing the world of work firsthand.
Excellent stuff. And another question. So is the work with the employer assessed, and would the student receive feedback on their placement?
It's a really good question, because we do, at the college, we have an online portal called Growfar that we log and monitor all placements. So the health and safety will be on here, as well as, like this question said, all the assessments that we've actually got on industry placements. So there's initial, midpoint and endpoint assessments. Initial assessments are generally done within sort of a month or so of the student being there, just to get an indication of what was going well, what can be changed. And this is normally the point where employers are like, right, so they're in 1 day a week, can we push it to 2? Because I feel like they'll benefit more from that. So it is just sort of a bare bones initial assessment of just see where the student is. Moving on to a midpoint assessment. This is normally the sort of make or break of industry placement, to see whether the student is sort of capable and sort of completing it and sort of going further within the industry. And at this point, the employer will normally give us feedback of anything that, any really standouts or anything that potentially the student can work on. And normally this midpoint assessment will end with sort of a summarization of what is going to be expected for the remaining part of the placement as well. So it'll be a good indication for me as the work placement officer that, right, so I know this student is going to be concentrating on this. Then I'll speak to the curriculum to see, right, they're going to be concentrating on this element. Can that coincide to any of the coursework that they're doing at the moment? So that's a good thing as well about industry placements. You're always going to have backup from myself as the work placement officer, and also the curriculum that we've got on board as well, so that you can really get a good understanding of what is the student learns at the college. So employer, from an employer's perspective, they can really change or adapt the work that the student's going to be doing to reflect that. So that's really positive. And then finally as well, we have the endpoint assessment, which is just an overbranching assessment of how the student got on in the entirety of the placement. And then feedback as well right at the end, just to see if it was a general success and whether there's any progression routes. I'm happy to say that one of my students going now onto a higher apprenticeship with the same company that they're doing the industry placement with, which obviously is music to our ears as a college, seeing that perfect progression for the student as well. So yeah, lots of assessments I have to go through in a year, but it's really nice, really rewarding to see a student going from A to Z in that regard. So yeah, really, really good.
Good stuff. Well, one last question for you, Matt. So
yes,
if you can give some advice to both an employer and a student who are both thinking about taking on A-levels, and very briefly, what's your advice?
Sorry, T-levels, do you mean? For
yeah, so if you've got an employer thinking, okay, I want to do a placement, or similarly a student wants to take on T-levels.
So for students, I would say it will be a great opportunity for you to really get through the door into the industry that you really have a passion for. If you're in that age now where you're starting to think, I really don't know what I want to do when I grow up, you know, then industry placement, T-level should say, are just a great introduction into why a potential area could be a career path for you. Alternatively, it might not be what you're looking for in the world of work. So again, you can sort of cross that off your list and look elsewhere. But you're not going to know that unless you really do complete the industry placement, get an insight into industry, and really start to develop those soft skills that will into the world of work. So yeah, for in students' perspective, really it is that foot through the door that I would recommend them for an industry placement and for a T-level. And then for employers, I think I mentioned this before, but we're so lucky in the Suffolk area that we've got so much talent in regards to the 16 to 18-year-olds, in the sense of the skills and the industry knowledge that they're going to have coming into your employer as well. It's a great chance as well for an employer to get a fresh perspective from a different pair of eyes. There's going to be age differences between the students and the employees that are on board. So seeing it from a fresh perspective from someone that is younger as well, generations will do things differently. So it might be beneficial, it might not work so much, but then you can build that relationship between communities as well, like bridging the gap between different age groups as well. And like I mentioned before, the entry level skill shortages that there are at the moment, it really does help develop and sort of change that, so that employers can help with students that are entry level working within workplaces. It really is good for an employer's perspective to be able to give back to the community in that sense as well. It will look good for fellow employers that you think, actually, this student completed a 315-hour industry placement with me. And I should say as well, I've got to mention that it is a minimal 315 hours. So I've got students that are completing 350 plus hours at the moment. So there isn't sort of any stoppages in regards to that, but it just goes to show that employers are willing to give back to the community, and it's sort of a great perspective that they'll then give out to everyone else.
Brilliant. Max, thank you so much for coming on. And I know that you were going to jump off screen, but then we've got one of your fancy T-level videos on there, so people can still
one of my favourites, Jordan. One of my favourites. So yeah, no problem.
Max, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Jordan. Much appreciated.
Cheers. So folks, we're going to then watch one of the T-level videos coming up right now.
Welcome to the next level, T-Levels, the post-GCSE qualification that combines in-class learning and work experience. It's the best of both worlds, where theory meets practice. It's the know-how. T-Levels are designed with 250 leading employers, so students can focus on the knowledge and skills businesses really need today and tomorrow. The subject list is growing year on year, with 24 courses available by 2023. Each one opening doors to work placements, industry contacts, and career paths. One T-level is worth 3 A-levels. From here, students can go anywhere. Onto university, take on a higher apprenticeship, or launch your career and get straight into work. This is more than a qualification. Designed with employers, we're creating young people who are work-ready, full of fresh ideas and practical skills, ready to shake up the industry and take businesses to the next level. So what are you waiting for? Get clued up, skilled up, and leveled up. Opportunities are there for the taking. Get ahead. T-Levels, the next level qualification.